Academy Awards, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep, The Deer Hunter.
The conclusion tonight at 7 on Channel 9.
Whatever this report may say.
Tonight, style and substance in the Oval Office under attack.
I think he was not aware of a lot of the things that were going on.
The Tower Commission issues a bruising assessment.
Policy was a wrong policy, and it was the president's policy.
From the Independent News, this is USA Tonight with Morton Dean.
Good evening. The Tower Commission told its story today. It's a story of a president out of touch, a National Security Council staff out of control, and a Marine lieutenant colonel out on his own. It's a damning story of a president's management style, a president who delegated authority to others, but who did not demand a full accounting from those to whom he delegated that authority.
In this particular instance, I believe that the president was poorly advised and poorly served. I think that he should have followed up more and monitored this operation more closely. I think he was not aware of a lot of the things that were going on and the way the operation was structured and who was involved in it. He very clearly didn't understand all that.
The commission said that while it believed the president did not deliberately mislead the U.S. public about the Iran-Contra affair, the president was, however, deliberately misled by members of his administration. Was the Iran arms deal a trade deal for hostages? The commission believes it surely became just that, despite what the president might have thought or said publicly. Here are some of the conclusions drawn by the Tower Commission about senior White House aides. Chief of Staff Donald Regan must bear primary responsibility for the chaos that descended on the White House. Former National Security Advisor John Poindexter failed grievously by keeping the president in the dark. Former Security Advisor Bud McFarlane admitted he had perjured himself before the commission. Former CIA Chief William Casey failed to keep the president informed and urged Colonel North to exercise direct control of the arms operation. North was said to have actively sought to conceal important information, and both the Secretaries of State and Defense were blamed for how they distanced themselves from the march of events. We have a series of reports and interviews about the Tower Commission's investigation and the fallout from it. We begin with John Aubuchon at the White House.
President Reagan spent the day reading the report and, we're told, learning a lot of things he did not know about John Poindexter's and Oliver North's activities. An official who was in the cabinet room when the Tower Board gave him the report says he spent nearly an hour asking the panel about their findings. There was a lot that was news to him in the document. That only underscores a central theme in the board's findings: an uninvolved president, not paying enough attention to detail.
I think he was not aware of a lot of the things that were going on and the way the operation was structured and who was involved in it. He very clearly didn't understand all that.
There's no doubt about it. The colossal blunders were made, and some organizational and personnel changes may be needed.
The only major personnel change expected is White House Chief of Staff Donald Regan. The announcement of his ouster could come within 24 hours, or it might await the president's televised speech on this affair, now planned for next Wednesday. Mr. Reagan will spend several days doing what he usually does in a crisis, meeting and talking by phone with old and trusted political friends, getting their advice. He promises action.
I pledge to the American people today that I will do whatever is necessary to enact the proper reforms and to meet the challenges ahead.
But critics say it's himself that Mr. Reagan must reform.
I think the president has to get much more involved. He's going to have to act. He's going to have to do what he did not do here, which is to lead.
And the Tower Board, too, did blame the president.
The policy was a wrong policy, and it was the president's policy.
The judgment tonight of many political analysts?
I think he can recover to a point where this does not leave his presidency in a shambles and certainly overshadow all the other things that occurred. We're still going to have some significant legacy. The Reagan Revolution will not be completely erased by all of this, but to expect anything other than a very difficult 2 years would be naive, I believe.
For the next 24 hours, the president's team will watch every nuance of how this story is played on television and in the newspapers to see how bad the damage is. And it's likely Reagan pollster Richard Worthland will do a quick national survey to get a public opinion x-ray of the injury. They've already started writing next week's TV speech. But they know, as one official told me, this is not the end of anything. They still face aggressive congressional investigations and the independent counsel's criminal probe. John Aubuchon at the White House.
Mr. Speaker, this report's got spies, arms smuggling, beautiful secretaries, and international intrigue. All the makings of a great Hollywood movie script.
With her own eye on Hollywood, Secretary Model Fawn Hall today became the first of 3 minor characters in the Iran scandal to be granted limited use immunity from prosecution so they can testify before Congress. No sooner did the Tower Commission release its stinging criticism of the White House than 2 congressional committees got into the act, arranging for Ms. Hall to testify against her former boss, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. The key question, did the diversion of Iran arms money to the Contras violate any criminal laws? Former Watergate Assistant Prosecutor Philip Lacavara says yes.
That could constitute a federal crime of embezzlement or conversion, which means that property of the United States is being disposed of for purposes that are not authorized by law.
Would that be a charge that could possibly be lodged against the president himself?
I think it would be hard on the basis of what's in the report to suggest that the president's conduct would violate that statute.
The Tower report concluded that the first secret shipment of arms to the Ayatollah in 1985 was probably illegal because it did not have the written approval of the president. Legal experts say that the president may have acted cavalierly, but not criminally. Also, congressional bans on arms shipments were designed to punish private arms dealers, not administration officials. So the special prosecutor would have to search through the criminal statutes to find a law that might have been broken. One possibility?
That the people involved conspired to defraud the United States, the people of the United States, of the proper performance of governmental functions.
That's a federal felony, carrying a 5-year prison term and fines up to $250,000. But as the Iran story unfolds, experienced prosecutors say it's important to distinguish between actions that may have been criminal and acts that were merely stupid. In Washington, this is Barry Cunningham.
The Tower Commission report is also big news overseas for friend and foe alike. More on that next, and we'll talk live with Senators Pat Leahy and Al D'Amato in Washington.
USA Tonight, brought to you by the General Foods Corporation and by Whirlpool.
The United States has not made concessions to those who hold our people captive in Lebanon, and we will not. The United States has not swapped boatloads of plane loads of American weapons for the return of American hostages, and we will not.
The Venice Simplon Orient Express. Naturally, the most luxurious train in the world serves the richest coffee in the world.
Oh, c'est impossible! Pas de crevettes de Colombie! Vite, vite! Retournez à Paris!
100% Colombian coffee, handpicked by Juan Valdez.
You know, it's funny. Lots of people used to think what made a great Raisin Bran was just a couple of scoops of raisins. But today people want more. That's why today's people prefer Post Natural Raisin Bran. Post is different. Look how some Raisin Brans hide their raisins with sugar. Not Post. These beauties are naturally sweet. And taste these crispy wheat and bran flakes. Fantastic. So don't settle for just any Raisin Bran. Insist on Post Natural Raisin Bran. Today's people prefer Post.
People, when you're dead at 17, you are dead at 17. And I want to repeat that for you because I don't know if you people understand this at all. When you're dead at 17, it is over.
In 1981, this man declared war on the #1 killer of teenagers, drinking and driving.
You have a problem. The problem is you drink, you drive, you die.
Bob Anastas started an organization called SAD. Today, Students Against Driving Drunk is an army of teenagers, several million strong.
The nice thing about the program, it doesn't challenge you. It doesn't challenge you as a man, or it doesn't challenge you as a woman. It challenges common sense.
It's a new generation of students who believe they have the power to eliminate their #1 killer. And it's working. Teenage deaths related to drinking and driving are dropping. For more information, write to SAD, Post Office Box 800, Marlborough, Massachusetts, 01752.
Do high furniture prices leave you cold? Shop Gaines Furniture Outlet for super hot prices on quality furniture. 4-piece living room groups only $149. Classy European style groups only $288. 3-piece early American groups only $229. Day beds and brass beds from $69. Plus hundreds of other specials at 70% savings. And you still get a free TV with your special purchase at Gaines Furniture Outlet, 7414 South Cicero, Fort City West, behind Aldi's.
Come and get it while it's hot.
All day long, people are in here fighting to get the best price.
But Cadillac buyers don't have to, thanks to a new pricing policy at Francis Cadillac. I'm Ralph Morrow, president of Francis Cadillac, and I've taken at least 20 and up to 30% off the prices of my new Cadillacs. Get the Francis discount. 20 to 30% off any new Cadillac. Come on, Francis. With 20 to 30% off, we have a lot of work to do.
Tell Francis sent ya.
Francis Cadillac in Mount Prospect.
Around the world, reaction to the Tower Commission findings is beginning to trickle in from allies and enemies alike. Jeff Kamen takes a look at how the report may affect U.S. foreign policy.
Okay. Whatever this report may say, I have appointed, or I'm proud to have appointed,
Stumbling over some of his words, the great communicator seemed more vulnerable, less in control than he would have wanted to appear, especially to foreign audiences. The President and the Tower Commission were broadcast live to Europe. The Washington lawyer who negotiated the last arms control treaty with the Soviets, Paul Warnke, believes that Kremlin leader Mikhail Gorbachev and his aides were watching.
I would suppose they'd be watching for some sort of sign that the president was about to take charge.
Gorbachev, says Warnke, is ready to make an arms control agreement, but the Iran-Contra scandal will probably discourage the Soviets, and Reagan may not be able to deal.
I think President Reagan's confidence has been badly shaken.
From his anti-terrorism policy to his hopes for peace in the Middle East to his support for the Contras, Ronald Reagan's foreign policy has suffered because of the Iran-Contra scandal, according to a wide range of experts. Former Secretary of Defense James Schlesinger says Reagan cannot regain his previous stature.
When he seemed to bestride the world just a year ago, he now seems to be in a position in which he is the plaything of events.
The scandal is being closely followed by America's European allies. Most British viewers got their word tonight from Martin Bell, the BBC's Reagan watcher.
He is personally extraordinarily popular. He just has to be somehow much better served by the people around him.
The experts we consulted believe that it is very unlikely that the president will be able to recapture the leadership role in America's foreign policy. This is Jeff Kamen in Washington.
The reaction from Capitol Hill tonight has been very tough on the Reagan administration. The president and his staff are getting it from those on the left wing, the right wing, and those who have no wing at all. Our guests tonight, 2 U.S. Senators, Patrick Leahy, a Democrat from Vermont, Al D'Amato, a Republican from New York. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, I know all of you have a wing, at least you two. This report, the report of the President's Special Review Board, really makes scary reading, doesn't it, Senator?
I think it does in one sense. You know, we've seen the same thing already in the Intelligence Committee, but the thing that bothers the most is that here you have the National Security Council, people all sworn to uphold the law, sworn to uphold the Constitution, willing to break their oath of office, willing to lie to a lot of people within the government, including the President, certainly willing to lie to the American people and lie to the Congress. The irony is, all their lies were designed to escape the kinds of checks and balances that are in our government. Had they not lied, had they followed the checks and balances, they never would have gotten into the fiasco in the first place.
Senator D'Amato, what does it say about the President of the United States in your view?
Well, let me say, I think he was too trusting, and he was totally deceived by his chief of staff, Don Regan. Don Regan has created an absolutely impossible situation for the president, has served him poorly, has cheated him and the American people, and certainly should be replaced immediately. I think he should have been replaced a long time ago. But the report really hones in on this almost rogue operation. And also there were some others, highly respected cabinet officials, who sought to distance themselves rather than to tell the president that there were activities going on that went beyond what could be countenanced, and so I'm disappointed in them as well. But certainly Donald Reagan has hurt this president and the administration. He should be dismissed immediately, and now we've got to get about the business of bringing in a new staff so that we can start the important work, arms negotiations, and the work of the American people.
Senators, I think you're being very diplomatic as far as the president is concerned. The report really takes the president to task for not controlling the people he has hired in the White House. But we'll get back to that in just a moment. Stay with us.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
You are about to become reacquainted with a magazine you grew up with. A magazine that's known for its extraordinary photography. A magazine about people, about history and the future, about laughter and pain, and growing up and growing old. A magazine, in short, about life. All it takes to have life delivered to your home for the next 12 months is just 4 easy payments of $7.97 each. With your subscription, you get Life's special issue, We the People, about the U.S. Constitution. Plus, if you order now, we'll send you free with your paid subscription, Life's elegant designer telephone, featuring an on-off ringer switch for total privacy and automatic memory that redials the last number you called. So call 1-800-621-7200 toll-free and say, I'd like to subscribe to Life. For the pictures only life can capture. For the stories only life can tell. Call 1-800-621-7200. We're waiting for your call.
Skinny stickless, fat with flavor. Skinny, fat with shaper. Skinny stickless, fat with flavor. See how skinny, taste how fat.
Only one gum gives you 9 slim sticklets instead of 7 wide ones in a regular pack. Sticklets in natural spearmint or peppermint.
Skinny sticklets, fat with flavor. See how skinny, taste how fat.
Get both low 3.9% financing and cash rebates, 3.9% and cash at Burt Wyman Ford. Your choice, all with air and only $29.88 full price. A 1981 Chevy Monte Carlo, $29.88. Same low $29.88 for this 1981 Mercury Cougar. And only $29.88 buys this 1981 Buick Skylark Limited at Chicago's #1 Ford dealer, Burt Wyman Ford, 3535 North, Ashland.
At Katz Auto Parts, buy used tires, mufflers, batteries, only $8.88. Carbs, calipers, drum starters, only $12.99. Used doors, fenders, windshields, radiators, only $39. Automatic transmissions and rear ends, only $69. At Katz, $125 buys an engine. Katz pays top dollar for your car, and Katz will even tow it away. At Katz, all parts are sold as is without warranty, but with exchange privileges. Now open Sundays at the North Avenue location.
Senators Leahy and D'Amato are still with us in Washington. Senators, the failure of responsibility under that heading in the report, the president really takes it on the chin. In your view, isn't it the president's ultimate responsibility to make the government work and to make it work properly?
Of course it is. And the president has on his desk, the buck stops here. Well, I'm afraid that before that was done more as a public relations ploy. The buck really does stop there. When the president went on national television and said, we're not paying ransom, we're not trading arms for hostages, he knew at that time that was wrong. He should have just taken the responsibility and said, that's what we did, it was a bad mistake, I'm going to clean house, and I'm going to pay attention to what's going on. He didn't. We had 2 months for this wound to fester, and the damage might be irreparable.
Senator D'Amato, what does this report say to you about the president's ability to control the real war and peace issues in the world, the nuclear issues?
Well, let me say this to you. I think that what the president had was a great chief of staff that he came to depend on and rely on in Jim Baker. And he gave that same kind of reliance and dependency to his new chief of staff, Donald Reagan, and that I see as the major problem. Now we're going to have to get a new team in there to work with our president. Certainly he's going to have to be more conscious of the day-to-day decisions, particularly as it relates to the important questions of arms control, and I think you're going to see that take place. But one thing we should understand, the president is wounded, the country's been hurt, but not mortally. And that is because there is a difference between this and Watergate. And the report goes to the point and says there was no attempted cover-up by this president. He did not deliberately attempt to deceive either the commission or the public. And I think that's important to recognize. Had he done that, had he attempted to deceive the people, to be less than candid, well, then I think it would have been a real tragedy, and he would have been mortally wounded. So, although he's hurt, and this has been a tragedy for the American people and this administration, I think in the fullness of time, the president can recover.
Senators, thank you for joining us live tonight from Washington. Senator Al D'Amato of New York and Patrick Leahy of Vermont.
Thank you.
And we're going to switch now to USA Tonight's Health Beat, a new time frame for contracting AIDS and a new connection between the flu and toxic shock syndrome.
USA Tonight's Health Beat is brought to you by Advil.
New evidence that the ticking time bomb of AIDS has a very slow fuse. A new study from the San Francisco Public Health Department shows the risk of developing AIDS from the AIDS virus is greater in the second 5 years. Until recently, experts believed the risk of getting AIDS dropped off after the first 5 years. They say the new evidence proves the AIDS epidemic is getting worse and that money should be spent to cure people infected with the AIDS virus, not just those who already have AIDS. And a new warning that what starts out as the common flu may turn into the deadly toxic shock syndrome. Toxic shock is usually triggered by wounds, respiratory infections, and tampon use. Researchers in Minnesota say severe bouts of flu weaken the body's immune system, providing the perfect setup for the bacteria that cause toxic shock. The researchers say the connection between flu and toxic shock is rare, but doctors should look for toxic shock in flu patients who suddenly get sicker. Symptoms of toxic shock include high fever, a drop in blood pressure, skin rash, vomiting, and diarrhea.
USA Tonight's Health Beat was brought to you by Advil.
When you have arthritis, mornings can be nightmares. Some days it hurts just to put on a watch.
Today, people are turning from aspirin to Advil for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. Advil contains a non-prescription strength of ibuprofen, the medicine doctors have prescribed over 130 million times in prescription brands like Motrin.
Advil works for hours, and that makes mornings much easier.
Advil, tablets and new caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
Days go by fast, your work never seems to end.
That's why we stand behind every Whirlpool appliance with our 24-hour Cool Line telephone service to help with problems or questions, and our national network of authorized tech care service outlets. Whirlpool, quality appliances.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool. This is dedicated to the ones we love.
You know what your problem is, Eric?
Alice?
You're 43 years old, and you still eat cold pizza and donuts for breakfast.
So that's it.
All that sugar, all those preservatives.
Hold it. Should I try Nutri-Grain?
Delicious Nutri-Grain, only the whole grain, with no preservatives and no sugar added.
Goodbye.
Wait, does this mean you love me?
Yes.
Kellogg's Nutri-Grain cereal.
Dedicated to the ones we love.
Pop artist Andy Warhol was laid to rest today, far from New York's glitzy art world where he earned both fame and fortune. Warhol was buried next to his mother in a small Catholic cemetery near his hometown of Pittsburgh. Warhol died in New York Sunday. He was 58. Death has also claimed stage and film actor James Coco, best known for portraying frantic fat people in movies and on Broadway. Coco suffered a fatal heart attack last night at his New York home. He was 56. An underground nuclear test in the Soviet Union today, their first in 19 months since announcing a self-imposed test freeze. Moscow claims it was forced into a resumption of testing because the U.S. would not join in a nuclear moratorium. Today's test brought regrets from several countries, but the U.S. was not among them. A State Department spokesman said the decision was a Soviet affair and that the U.S. has no intention of halting its testing program. After 2 delays, a success tonight for the U.S. space program. From Cape Canaveral, NASA launched an unmanned Delta rocket. Its payload, a $55 million weather satellite, shooting through thick clouds over Florida. The rocket put the satellite into preliminary orbit. 26 minutes after liftoff, the satellite will be moved to its final orbit on Saturday, 22,000 miles above South America, where it will help keep track of developing storms. Joining us now is USA Tonight's meteorologist, Bob Harris. Welcome, Bob.
Yes,
How
sir.
important was this launch to weather and weather forecasting?
Real shot in the arm for us in the weather community, Mort, because what it does is it expands our coverage, our ability to see all across the Atlantic Ocean, for example, to pick up the incipient stages of hurricane development off the west coast of Africa. So the earlier we can see that, the earlier we can detect those basic cloud formations, the better we can use that information to help forecast the hurricane movement and development.
Are you telling me you're going to make better forecasts in the future?
I think it's going to help. The satellite meteorology program has gone a long way to doing that and giving us better insight as to how these things happen and how quickly they form, and it gives us a tip-off for the areas that are vulnerable to hurricane formation. So we've been limping along with one satellite now for, a good year or two, and now the second satellite is going to expand our coverage. We'll have full coverage in the Pacific and full satellite coverage in the Atlantic Ocean.
And it's going to be up where it belongs very, very shortly. How soon before all the information begins to trickle down to you people?
We're going to be getting data back from GOES 7 right at the end of April, and the hurricane season begins June 1st. So we got our fingers crossed. We're going to have what we need.
Bob Harris, thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll be back. Next, we'll go to Washington with more on the Tower Commission report with our correspondents John Aubuchon and Jeff Kamen. Okay, that was fine.
The facts are all out, I believe, and it's now up to the White House and the Congress to get on with the other business of the country.
Trapped like an animal with nowhere to escape. Caught in the wrong place and the wrong time. In a world turned upside down. Spend 3 nights with the 3 theatrical originals.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
On the Planet of the Apes. Monday through Wednesday at 7 on Channel 9.
Get both low 3.9% financing and cash rebates, 3.9% and cash at Burt Wyman Ford. Brand new Ford trades for only $59.88, all full price. A 1984 Ford Thunderbird with air, $59.88. Act fast. A 1983 Ford F-150 XL with camper top, $59.88. A 1982 Mustang GT with T-tops and air, $59.88 at Chicago's #1 Ford dealer, Burt Wyman Ford.
If Rick's is the low-price warehouse showroom, Harlan must be the lower-than-low-price showroom, because our prices for these same exact sets are so much less. $400 less for this 3-piece international living room set. $500 less for this 4-piece Thomasville bedroom. Don't pay $900 more at Rick's. Pay $900 less at Harlem.
Harlem has style.
Furniture.
Harlem has quality.
Discounts.
Nice price place since 94. Harlem Furniture, you like our style.
USA Tonight, brought to you by Kellogg's Nutri-Grain Cereal.
Finally tonight, this is one of those days that makes Washington the focus of international attention, a day that kept everyone in the Washington media corps very busy. Here tonight with some thoughts on the day's events, our Washington correspondents John Aubuchon and Jeff Kamen. Gentlemen, I want to ask you whether the president's going to have a chance to recover. Isn't it going to be virtually impossible? There is so much arrayed against him. How about it?
Mort, let me throw out a few thoughts. Look at the fight that the president is having, even to find a successor now that he's finally agreed to dump Chief of Staff Donald Regan. Tonight it's reported that Drew Lewis, his former transportation secretary and old political friend, was offered the job and turned it down. He's having trouble finding someone to step into the breach. He's planning a series of speeches across the country next month. He's looking forward to budget bickering with the Congress. He'll have a big fight over new money for the Nicaraguan rebels. No concept of any big deal, any new theme that could capture the public imagination, such as an arms deal with the Soviets or a dramatic deal with the Democrats. What's there to capture the imagination and turn the president around? There's not much.
What about it, Jeff? Do you agree with our colleague there?
Absolutely. And I think that something really extraordinary happened 2 days ago. The business community in the United States awakened to the Wall Street Journal. And column 1, the lead item, said, "Out of control," was describing Ronald Reagan. The words that no business leader wants ascribed to him or to her. and to place it next to the President of the United States by the Wall Street Journal sounded like the end.